Derek Spallone, glad to be alongside former Heisman Trophy winner, one of the top running backs to have played the game, and most importantly, a spiritual healer, Mr. Ricky Williams. Ricky,
spiritual healer, thank you.
We all right with that? We okay?
No, I mean,
okay.
it's one of the things that I've been wrestling with for the past 7-8 years.
Right.
Being a football player and being in one area and moving into another area where my true passion is really healing.
Yeah.
So I've been embracing having it, attached to my name more as a title or an identity, and it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It feels good, so thank you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. It's one of the most important attributes, so we appreciate you taking the time out, man. So, just first and foremost, you just wrapped up a very emotional but uplifting live speaking engagement here in Chicago.
Yeah.
With that said, how truly unique was this experience for you? Not only being on stage and sharing your story, but seeing the direct impact it's had on all the people in the audience.
Yeah, well, good question. First of all, it's the first time that I've done anything like this where I felt comfortable inside myself, but also in the venue and the way it's set up, to be honest and tell my story in a way that touches on some sticky, taboo subjects, but also in a way, like you said, it's uplifting. And then to be able in the meet and greet to talk about people and to hear how my story or the things I've said and their experiences have come together to leave them with insight. That's my big thing. In anything in life, whether it's good, bad, pleasant, uncomfortable, if you can always walk away with some insight, then it's been a successful experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's also the beautiful thing about sports, though, is it has the power to bring people together, to have the impact and to be able to do that. But very few know what it's like to be a professional athlete, to constantly be under the microscope and have to deal with that responsibility of handling a very emotional but physically demanding task. But you know exactly what that's like. So how did you find that balance and come to terms with that way of life early on in your career?
Yeah, I didn't have balance early on.
Okay.
Early on in my career, and actually, strangely, it took me retiring from football, taking a year off, and getting to know myself a little bit better, so that when I came back to football in 2005 for the rest of my career, I had balance, because when I could still show up 150% at practice during the week and on Sundays, but I would spend the off season and time after practice, like I went back to school when I was
right.
So I started nurturing other parts of myself, and I think once the other side of myself caught up to football, the integration was quite natural.
Yeah. Did you see, though, where as you became a little older, you started to understand the concepts and the reasons why things happen? Yeah.
Well said. There's something, I think, unfortunately, we kind of poo-poo like getting older,
right.
But I'm finding as I get older, like I'm really enjoying the maturity that comes along with experience. And now, even when I was still playing football, to be able to have some experience as a veteran and look back and put the earlier experiences into some kind of context, I think it helped me play 11 years in the NFL. And I felt, if I wanted to, I could have played a few more years, because I finally figured it out. I finally figured out how to balance giving your all and doing something that's really intense and really difficult, and how to recover from that and still find a way to build a life and prepare for after football.
But as humans, we all want to be liked and accepted. So for you coming to the NFL and having all this hype and everybody loving you, how did you handle that burden of all of a sudden being that villain, unfairly, but having that title? Yeah.
It's weird to say this, but it was very cathartic and very therapeutic for me, because I think, like you said, I think it feels good to be liked, but I think the way that we tend to do it is kind of wherever we happen to end up, trying to force ourselves into a situation. And I found as I've gotten older, when you know yourself, then you tend to be attracted to other people that are like-minded, and so you're accepted from an organic place of, wow, we see things the same way, not from, we're both good at football, so now we have to get along. So I think, and also for athletes, I'd say, especially in college, because the way college sports are, you spend all your time around football players. And I tell kids in Texas now, I say, I know you guys are tired and you spend so much time, but it'll behoove you to spend time and meet other people on campus, to try to become a more complete person, where it's not just football all the time. I love football and it's been great in my life, but I found it worked better when I had other things in my life going on too.
It kind of not being it who you are, but just being it what you do.
Something you do.
Yeah.
Well said.
Absolutely. You've had a dominating presence on the field, but I have the utmost respect for you and the courage you exemplified by using your inner strength to detach yourself from society briefly, doing something different, to dig deep within and become someone you liked when you looked into the mirror. But can you just pinpoint me through that process and how it led you to finding your true calling?
Yeah, it was a gradual process, and it all started in, like most transformational processes. It starts when something that you hold truly dearly somehow like is lost,
Okay.
and you have to start asking difficult questions because it started when I got to the NFL. You know, my whole life was football player, athlete, and then I got hurt early in my career in New Orleans, and I didn't have football, and I realized I don't know who I am. And so it started a slow process, and it ended up after 2003, the football season, I decided I need a break. So I took a trip to Australia. I ended up cutting my hair, and just being around people who have no idea who I am, I started to get a more accurate or a different perspective of who I was. So I came back literally a different person. Like, the dreads were gone. I kind of had a different sense of who I was, and I realized this world I'm living in doesn't feel like it fits me anymore. So that's when I retired. Got a chance to get to know myself even better. I found yoga, I found a spiritual practice, came back to football, and then it began a 5 or 6 year process of just integrating the parts of me that I discovered in my year off and the football part of me. And I think as we go through life, I think change and growth is really about finding pieces of ourselves that have somehow got disconnected, bringing them back and finding a way to integrate them into our lives.
Yeah, that's just so cool. I mean, just being able to do that. Why do you feel that's so difficult now, though, in our generation, to take a step back and say, hey, I'm gonna go away for a little bit and kind of refresh and find myself?
That's a good question. Well, I think it's in any generation is difficult because, like you said, it takes courage, and you have to be willing to disappoint people that care about you. I mean, we watched 30 for 30. The image that keeps coming up for me is how upset and angry my mom was during the whole process, because, you know, I'm her son and she cares about me, and she sees me like throwing away everything that I worked for and everything I built, and people we care about, when they see us like doing things they don't understand, it's hard for them. And so it takes courage to separate from the people you care about. But you know, it's so funny, like when you listen to your heart or you follow kind of where you're guided, it seems like the universe like gives you clues. I remember I was in Australia and I was wrestling with these same questions, and this random guy gave me a Bible.
Okay.
And he opened up the Bible and he said, "Here, something told me to give you this." And so I started reading the Bible, and then I came across this verse. It says, "Any man who gives up like home, family, gives up all these things to find themselves, will have everything returned to them." And at that moment, I was like I felt like, okay, and it's been true. Like my year off, I came back, and everything that I gave up, it came back and then some. Yeah. And so, you know, I think when you get the call, because you never know when the call is going to come, when you get the call, try to find the courage to listen to it, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And aside from that, what I think all makes us unique as individuals is we have our own set of core values.
Yes.
Things that mean the most to us. So for you personally, Ricky, that American dream that everybody aspires to catch a glimpse of, the nice cars, the nice clothes, being rich and famous.
Yeah.
Did you find it a bit odd how easy it was for you to step away from that in order for you to...
You're asking a really good question. So there was a moment, I remember, I was in my car, I was in Miami, I was driving home, and I just was thinking about stuff. And I had this thought that scared the crap out of me. And the thought was, what if I want to do something other than play football right now? And because I'm still in my mid-20s and just like the NFL and rushing, that was kind of the hard thing to wrestle with.
Right.
And then the next thought was, what about the cars, the money, and all the things that I worked for? And what shocked me was the sense I got was, who cares about those things? Like it come to my world, my inner world, where traveling, my true calling was louder than playing football. And I think of what I learned about myself is how much I love to travel and explore. And I think the reason I was able to play so long in the NFL is because during the season I would dedicate myself to football, but in the off season I would feed my love for travel as far as core values.
Yeah, no, definitely the core values, but also just from watching the 30 for 30 was finding your purpose as well, one of your main core values to kind of be on there. So.
Yeah, I think what happens to a lot of people is their purpose is something that's inherited or taken from someone else, and sometimes their core values are too. So I think it's important to find your true core values, and when you use those as a navigation system, your purpose reveals itself. At least that's how it happened
Yeah.
for me. Because I retired from football, not having any idea what I was doing. Next thing I know, I started finding myself and finding my purpose. Just the beginning part,
Right.
it's still developing, but my fear is like if I wouldn't have heard the call and I would have kept playing football, I probably would have had more numbers, but I'm not sure that my body would be in great shape right now.
Or even if you'd be happy
Yeah.
with it, just even your,
Yeah.
being, I guess, satisfied and content because you were
Yeah.
able to still, you never lost your love for football,
Yeah.
but it was just, hey, I need to.
And also people's fear that if I leave this, it won't be here when I come back. And I know it's a cliche that if you love something, you let it go and come back.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right.
At least in my case it was. And so when I walked away from football, I truly walked away thinking I'm never coming back. I'm never doing this again. Never thought I'd play another 5 years in the NFL and rush for 1,000 yards again. But I just followed my heart and it led me away and then it led me right back.
Yeah. Change is always scary originally. And
change is always scary.
Yeah. And I think as individuals, that's one thing we never want to have to go through, but have to go through sometimes just to grow.
Yeah.
And then always, and instead of asking what if, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But Ricky, I want to talk a little bit about your career.
Yeah.
I mean, you've accomplished many accolades, from being a Heisman Trophy winner to a rushing yards leader to having multiple seasons with rushing over thousands of yards and a Pro Bowler. But when you reflect back on your journey, what stands out the most in your mind about what you were blessed to accomplish and how you handled those achievements?
Question. So accomplishment is easy. I think considering everything that I went through, the ups and downs of my NFL career, to walk away with 10,000 yards rushing, it was important to me. You know, I think it would have been difficult to retire at 9,990 yards. Yeah. So to really hit that milestone, and at least for me, as far as what I accomplished on the field, I feel really, really good about that. As far as like specific moments, you know, that for me, it's more about the process. And there's something about when you bring 52 guys together and you say, I want you guys to bring like your heart and your skill and everything you have to come together and compete against another group of guys doing the same thing.
Right.
And just doing that constantly day after day for year after year, you really appreciate the value of teamwork, of other people, of trusting yourself, and think of overcoming obstacles. My favorite thing about playing in the NFL was actually watching teammates overachieve.
Wow.
Meaning watching teammates do more than they thought they could. And then watching myself do more than I thought I could. I've always been fascinated with human potential. And not potential like we only have a certain potential, but that curiosity and that question of what else can I do that I didn't know I can do. You know, in catching, diving touchdown passes or hurdling over guys when I can't jump. Hurling over guys, running guys over. Just when you're in an intense situation where you have to show up, you always surprise yourself. Yeah. And that's what I loved about it. So just the constant grind of being in an environment and a group that cherishes and celebrates improvement on a daily basis.
I got to give you a little props though, because I know you said you couldn't jump, but I don't think anybody wanted to stand in your way when you were coming down there. You chuck them over a little bit.
Well, I couldn't jump over. I had to do something.
Yeah, no, I don't think they were trying to get plowed over. See the
but I
place.
grew up big Walter Payton fan.
Okay.
And watching him on the goal line, like leaping over. You know, there's a hedge when I was growing up. There's a hedge out in front of my house, and weekly I would get the football and like dive over that hedge like it was the line of scrimmage. And then so when I finally got to the NFL and I got a chance to do it for real,
no better feeling, right?
Nothing like
it's just that kind of plays back in your head of that time. So
yeah,
and Walter never ran out of bounds, and rest in peace to one of the greatest. So,
yeah. I mean, and again, like I think the way I ran, how hard I ran, I got it straight from Walter.
Did you? I know you mentioned this too in the 30 for 30. I hate to keep mentioning back to it, but it just kind of stands in my mind. You had to kill your ego a little bit when you came back, and that was kind of your words. May not be word for word, but taking that backseat to Ronnie Brown originally.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like it bothered you. It seemed like you were able to kind of use it as. I mean, or maybe it did, but you just didn't.
I was fortunate because so when I came back, that was 2005 when I came back and started splitting time with Ronnie. I spent the whole previous year killing my ego, basically. Doing yoga, meditation, where my yoga teacher, it's true, it's accurate actually. So I remember I was in India, I was in Rishikesh on the day that because when I talked to Nick Saban, he was like, we want you back. So I was like, I'm going to go back and have my starting job. And I remember it was draft day. I was in Rishikesh, and I like went into town to get to the internet cafe to see like who the Dolphins drafted, and they drafted a running back with the second overall pick.
Right.
So I was like, and then I get to Miami, and Nick says, I know we drafted a back, but we want you guys to split time. And it was tough at first. Just my whole life being a 35, 40 carry guy, it was hard to split time. But when I realized, okay, I'm doing less work, I'm able to take care of my body, still making a living, I still have a chance to contribute, I realized this actually works better for where I am in life. And then I had another ego-killing experience when I went to Baltimore. Okay. Because with Ronnie, we had a deal where it was 50-50. He started, but it was 50-50. And then when I went to Baltimore to deal with Ray Rice, because he was the starter, and when he got tired or couldn't go, then I would come in. Okay. And that was hard. Yeah. Not being a part of the game plan, not knowing I'm going to touch the ball a certain amount of time, and kind of being the backup guy. That was tough.
Yeah.
Especially in Baltimore, which like at the time Baltimore was Ray Rice town, and so being the guy for so long and then being in someone else's running back world was really trippy.
Yeah, a little humbling though.
Oh, sure. A little. It was
extremely humbling.
It was extremely humbling.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And I just want to wrap it up by mentioning this. I mean, through your teaching and your foundation, you have had the opportunity to impact the lives of many people all across the world. So how fulfilling has it been for you being the one to provide that light at the end of the tunnel for those going through a dark time? Yeah.
I like to think of it as like being the person who turns on a light bulb.
Okay.
I'm just impressed by like, and it's part of the human potential thing, but like insight and how like we're stuck in a situation and whether it's a person, whether it's a situation, an experience, a substance, something that turns on that light switch and you can see something clearly or different. It's just that rush of energy where you felt you were stuck, and in that one instance you got the answer, you saw the light. I like telling inspiring stories, sharing my life so that other people can use what I've been through to activate their own wisdom, their own insight.
Yeah. Can you recall a memorable story maybe one of your teachings had and someone telling you, hey Ricky, because of you I didn't give up, or because of you I didn't
there's
I'm sure there's quite a few. I know it's tough to put some.
It feels good to say that there's quite a few. But yeah, I remember I was doing an autograph signing in Houston, and a guy came up to me and he started talking to me, and he said, I was in a situation where I lost my whole family, and he said I was on the verge of committing suicide, and I saw Run Ricky Run, and I realized that I'm gonna give it another month. And he said in that next month, he started meditating, and he started getting his life in order, and he was where he was today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. That goes beyond any, I'm sure, accomplishment or accolade that you've
way seen. Beyond. Yeah. Because I really feel that on Earth, like, at least for me, like my experience is feeling disconnected from people and always looking for that place that we can all connect. And I think we're all having a human experience, and I think we all benefit from clarity and insight. And so if I can be that for people and allow people to be that for me, life is just easier.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable. I wake up in the morning excited about what else am I going to learn, or who else am I going to touch today.
Yeah, and like you just said, hit on that, I'm sure you can agree that the most important thing in life is just being a good person.
Yeah.
There's just so many things in the world, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
At the end of the day, I think being a good person is extremely important, and I think in order to be a good person, I think you have to, in the long term, you have to find your purpose. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if there's something missing, it's going to drain the life force out of you.
Yeah. So find the purpose and inspire the next wave.
Find yourself. You'll find your purpose, and then life doesn't get easier as much as things start to make sense. And so when you're putting in your effort or you're putting your heart on the line, you have that feeling like this is gonna create something. This is gonna do something. Not where, like, playing football, I got to the point where I still love football, but I kind of got to the point where I was mature enough where I asked, like, what am I really doing?
Right.
Like this is great and the money is great, but what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that scary question led me on a journey. Here I am.
And the journey's continuing.
Sure is. Thank God.
Hey, Derek Spallone, Ricky Williams, I really appreciate you taking the time out and chatting with us.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. You're very wise, young man. I look forward to what you're doing and where you are in the next 10, 15 years.
Oh, man, that's very, very kind of you. It means a lot. Thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate it, man.
Of course.
Thanks.